My name is Seraphine Vale, 32 years old. I slow to a crawl at the mouth of my parents' Buckhead driveway, the brick colonial glaring the same way the house always has. Trim, perfect, shutters obedient, hedges clipped to an inch like they might grow wild if given the chance. 6 months since I let this place shorten my spine. 6 months since I promised myself I wouldn't swallow dry brisket and drier compliments, while my brother Preston shines like a chandelier no one can switch off. I park behind my father's Mercedes, straighten my blouse in the rear view, and adjust my face into the expression that has kept me safe for years. Polite, uncrackable, interested in nothing that can be taken from me. Inside, the foyer smells like furniture polish and Eleanor's favorite perfume, the one that insists money is a scent. Seraphine, you're here, my mother says without turning, fingertips fussing over sterling serving spoons like they might skitter off the linen if she blinks. No hug, just inventory. Would you put the water glasses out? Your father is almost done with the brisket. Of course, I say, moving to the china cabinet, pretending not to notice the sideboard swollen with photographs. Preston at Harvard, Preston with the mayor, Preston being handed some plaque for excellence in a category invented for people like Preston. There's one of me, too. High school graduation, tucked behind a silver frame like a guilty habit. I set out the glasses with the precision of a surgeon closing an incision. Arthur strides in from the kitchen, kiss the cook apron tied proudly over his Oxford, carving knife lifted like a flag. Sunday brisket's almost ready, he announces to no one in particular. I tell him it smells wonderful, and my tongue decides we will both live with the lie. Eleanor glides around the table, aligning napkins with military zeal. Preston should be here any minute, she says. He's on a call with Tokyo. The word lands like a velvet rope we aren't meant to cross. The front door opens as if summoned. Hello, family, Preston booms. Navy suit on a Sunday, hair performing its own stock split. Eleanor rushes to hug him. Arthur claps his shoulder. I watch the choreography. Affection as currency, applause as oxygen. We take our seats, Arthur at the head, Eleanor to his right, Preston to his left, and me facing a blank expanse of painted wall. Knives scrape, platters pass. Conversation unfurls like a brochure for a life where nothing breaks. So Preston, Arthur says, serving him the best cut. How's Atlanta's financial wonderkind? Preston laughs his imported laugh. Can't complain, just closed a round. 8 figures. He chews thoughtfully, then drops it. Looking at a place on West Paces, 5.2, glass for days, floating staircase, the works. Eleanor glows. That's prime. I've got a viewing Tuesday, Preston continues. Should be able to make an offer by week's end. I swallow brisket that fights back. I've been house hunting too, I say, casual, like asking someone to pass the salt. The silence is mercifully short, only 2 beats, before all 3 laugh. Good one, Preston says, dabbing the corners of his mouth. Arthur's fond reprimand arrives on schedule. Your little online shop is charming, Seraphine, but a house on West Paces requires. He gestures vaguely toward Preston, as if his son's aura can be expressed in square footage. I sip water. It tastes like pennies. Right, I say, and because I have trained for this, I let my face hold. No flare, no fracture. Eleanor pushes a store-bought pecan pie toward me, with a frown she thinks is maternal. Have dessert, dear. You're looking thin. Across the table, Preston says, I'm looking at putting capital into Modern Hearth. Real player, going to crush those trinket boutiques cluttering up the market. He spears a piece of brisket already bored. Anyway, West Paces. It's basically spoken for. A memory opens its mouth in my chest. 20 years old with a 5-page business plan trembling in my hands, Arthur scanning for 30 seconds before patting my head. Cute, sweetheart. Meanwhile, Preston had just landed Goldman. That night I learned the only thing worse than failure is handing your dream to someone eager to label it cute. So I hid it. I protected it. I built it where their laughter couldn't reach. I clear plates. I thank my mother. I accept leftovers I won't eat. At the door, Eleanor presses the foil into my hands. Since you probably don't cook. I become the version of me this house permits and tell her thank you again. On the drive home, my hands shake once on the wheel and then are still. The city slides by in clean panes of light. I pull into the quiet of my office garage and take the private elevator to the floor that says I'm a ghost or a myth, depending on who you ask. The perennial house headquarters does not resemble a hobby. The lobby blooms with our spring ceramics, hand-poured candles, sculptural vases, textiles that feel like memory. Magazine covers line one wall, awards another, and the glass corner office has a view that turns the skyline into an altar. Rhys is there already, sleeves rolled, tie loosened, spreadsheets open like a field. He looks up and reads the entire dinner on my face. How bad? Standard. I lay my purse down. They laughed when I said I'm house hunting. He exhales softly, a sound between sympathy and fury. Preston? West paces 5.2, glass box. Floating stairs. He's seeing it Tuesday. Rhys leans back, eyes narrowing in that way that means numbers are lining up in the air between us. Do you want it? I don't want a symbol. I watch the city reflect in the window, then turn to him. I want that specific house. All cash, he says, like a vow, not a question. No contingencies, I answer. LLC to keep your name off record, he adds. Close before his banker finishes lacing his shoes. Rhys smiles, small and lethal. I'll call Mary Holbrook. We bought her charity auction last year. She'll take my call. He gathers himself, then pauses. You don't have to do this to prove anything. I'm not. The truth is clean as glass. I'm done hiding, so they can be comfortable. That's all. He nods, recognizing the shift. We've been together in failure and in growth. The night a supplier vanished with my savings. The winter I packed boxes at 2 a.m. with fingerless gloves. The month I worked 3 side gigs and told no one. He witnessed it all, and because he did, he does not confuse this decision with spite. He's already dialing when I add, almost as an afterthought, at dinner, Arthur mentioned bridge financing like it's a charm. I meet his eyes. And Eleanor tucked a letter into a drawer like it bit her. Rhys tilts his head. Cracks. Hairline, but there, I say. Preston bragged about Modern Hearth again. If he's in that deep, and if Modern Hearth is as leveraged as we think, then the rope he's climbing is made of sugar, Rhys finishes. We'll keep our ears open. We move. The offer goes out with the velocity of a blade. Mary calls back in 40 minutes, breathless. All cash, no inspection, fast close. Are you real? Rhys handles the charm. I handle the wire. While the lawyers build the bones of an LLC named like a tree in a county no one visits, I open our sample room and choose the objects that made strangers tell me their lives had changed. Bowls that felt like they remembered who held them, throws that smelled faintly of cedar, a vase the color of thunderheads. If the house becomes mine, it will be arranged with proof instead of permission. I shower in the private gym downstairs, stand under water so hot it erases the last of the brisket, and let myself imagine. The floating staircase as a vein of light, the kitchen marble cool under my palm, my own work in all that glass, unashamed. When I come back up, Rhys is waiting with a grin he can't control. They accepted. It lands in my body like a bell rung by a steady hand. Not triumph, alignment. Tuesday viewing becomes Tuesday key handoff, he says. We'll have designers in by Wednesday, if you want the reveal. I do. I won't call it revenge. It's a demonstration. Some truths need a room big enough to carry their echo. Rhys hesitates, then, you sure about the guest list? Everyone who ever told me to think smaller. I meet his gaze. And my family. He studies me for a heartbeat. Seraphine, what if Preston isn't as liquid as he pretends? Then this is kinder than letting him perform success while the floor gives way, I say. And even as I hear it, I know it's the kind of kindness that feels like cruelty on the tongue. Either way, I'm done participating in the fiction. We draft the invitations on heavy cream stock, no host name, only an address, a date, a time. We keep the typography spare, the way a verdict is spare, just enough words to change a life. Before I leave, I look back at the office wall where the first magazine cover hangs. A year I didn't tell my parents because they were busy seating Preston's promotion at the head of the table. I touch the frame and think of the sideboard at home, the single photo of me hiding behind his victories. That picture had a date. So will this. On the drive out of downtown, the city hums under a rinsed blue sky. My phone lights with a text from Eleanor. Sunday was lovely. Preston thinks he'll make an offer by Friday. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I almost reply, yes, but I close the screen instead and let the road open like a future that's been waiting, patient, for me to claim it. The light turns green. I go. My phone vibrates with the closing documents at 7:12 a.m. The subject line a clean, unemotional sentence. Executed agreement. Holbrook Residence, West Paces. I read it twice anyway, letting the math settle into my bones. All cash, no contingencies, 15-day close. An answer that doesn't wait for permission. Rhys arrives at my office with 2 coffees and a grin that lives mostly in his eyes. Keys tomorrow at noon. Mary's ecstatic. She said the sellers have never seen anything move so fast unless someone died. Something did, I say lightly. The version of me that tolerated Sunday stories. He studies me for a moment. You don't have to be brave about all of it. I'm not brave, I tell him. I'm organized. The house, when we step into it again, is cathedral cool and humming with quiet. Noon light slants across the floating staircase, making it look like a ribbon suspended in air. The foyer is a gallery of clean lines and silence. Each surface seems to ask whether it was designed or discovered. Mary does the realtor dance. Square footage, radiant heat, kitchen appliances that have their own fan clubs, but her voice is a second sound to the one inside my head. You can breathe here. I trail my fingers along the marble edge of the kitchen island. It's not about price. It's about choosing a life where I am the first person I convince. Shall we start staging as soon as the keys change hands? Mary asks, eager. We can bring in a standard package today if you like. Not standard, I say. Mine. I'll send a list. I want the perennial pieces in their natural habitat. Rhys smothers a smile. We'll need white glove transport from the warehouse and insurance riders on the museum pieces. Done, I say. The island's cold under my palm, a useful reminder that beauty can carry weight. I want them to engage with the work before they know it's mine. He nods, hearing the barb under the velvet. You want the house to tell the story. I want the house to tell the truth. While Mary simpers over paperwork and lockboxes, we walk the rooms like cartographers. The living room will get the thunderhead vase on a console opposite the windows. The candle line with cedar smoke and tea leaves will live in the built-ins by the fireplace. The primary suite wants texture, hand-loomed throws, the stoneware set with the invisible thumbprint, a bench upholstered in that honest linen. The upstairs hall, with its long, clean run, will be a timeline in objects, spring glaze to summer weave to autumn clay, a quiet parade of accomplishments I do not need them to clap for. In the master bath, I look at my reflection under a ring of perfect light and think of the night the supplier vanished with my savings, how the bank app showed, the number I'd scraped up through years of careful, lonely thrift, and then blank. How I went to the warehouse anyway, packed orders until my shoulders screamed, and came home with fingers nicked raw from box cutters. 3 side jobs stitched into the edges of my days, whispered negotiations with freight brokers who didn't care if I slept. The first time an influencer posted a candle and the orders multiplied like a miracle you don't mention for fear it will stop. I had kept those memories like contraband, hoarded in the dark. In this wash of high-end light, they look less like shame and more like origin. Back downstairs, Mary pulls the front door shut, chirps something about championship landscaping, and leaves. The silence that follows is bright and expectant. Rhys stands by the staircase, hands in pockets, a general surveying terrain. If you're still set on a reveal party, we need a date that gives us runway to stage without telling anyone we're staging. A week, I say. I want them surprised enough to be honest. He raises both eyebrows. A week is a sprint. You don't hire sprinters to jog, I reply. He laughs, but his eyes go thoughtful. Anonymous invitations just landed as mysterious in Atlanta as they need to. We'll keep your name off. Dress code? Whatever makes them feel important. He makes a note. And we'll need sound, live strings, enough champagne to make gossip forget its manners. We walk to the back wall of glass. The city spools out around us. Banks and cranes and neighborhoods that hold 100 small stories. You know they'll come because they think it's networking, he says. That's the point. We leave the house to the echo of our footsteps and spend the afternoon at headquarters. The operations floor hums. Forklifts whisper, scanners chirp, labels spit and curl. I climb the catwalk to the overlook and watch the choreography I built. Order lines moving like measured rivers, staff who know when to speak and when to nod. the system we refined until it could hum without me running alongside. When I go back down, I call the lead designer. I need staging in 7 days, I say. Feature the Thunderhead series and the Cedar line. Emphasize tactility, nubby, hand touch, human. Understood, she says. And your palette? Let the house's light do the work. If I can see the hand, it stays. Consider it done. By evening, the invitations are finalized. Heavy, quiet paper, a West Paces address, a Thursday night, 7 o'clock. No names. Rhys suggests we use the caterer who knows how to move through a room without making it feel like a performance. I tell him yes, and we add a quartet who can play the kind of Bach that sounds like a secret being shared. On the second day, deliveries lace the driveway in a discreet procession. White-gloved teams carry in wrapped shapes that reveal themselves like thoughts you've been avoiding until they stand right in front of you. The Thunderhead vase takes its place and changes the air by existing. The cedar candle line anchors shelves and makes the room smell like rain that hasn't arrived yet. I work quietly beside the designers, moving a throw 2 inches, swapping a bowl for another, rejecting a coffee table that tries too hard. Less showroom, I say, more consequence. Rhys orchestrates a separate dance, the invisible security, the valet, the list. We'll send a blind CC to the interesting people, he says. They'll talk for you without realizing they're speaking your lines. At noon, I drive to my parents' house with coffee as my alibi. Eleanor is alone in the kitchen, back straight, hair immaculate. A surprise visit, she trills. To what do we owe the honor? To caffeine, I say, setting the cups down. Thought you could use a break. We do the small talk like a half-remembered waltz. On the counter, half hidden under the mail, something officious peeks out, a formal envelope with a bank's crest. Eleanor's hand darts to shuffle it lower, too quick to be nothing. How's your little shop? She asks, smile sharpened. Still making those darling candles? It's steady, I say, because this script requires us to lie. She sighs in a tone that has years inside it. Preston's so busy. That West Paces house, oh, it's practically already his. We met with our banker the other day about some things, and the timing is perfect. Timing, I say mildly, always an honest man. She laughs in a tinkling, brittle way. Anyway, you should come by Sunday. I'm making lemon bars. When I leave, I pass Arthur's office and catch a thread of his voice through the door. Bridge financing. No, we have to. You told me Tokyo was... The door opens. He smiles too widely. Pumpkin. Pumpkin. A word that turns my spine to wood. Hi, Dad. Just dropped coffee. How's the boutique? He asks swiftly, the word boutique landing with the weight of a judgment dressed as fondness. Still selling trinkets, I say pleasantly, and walk out before I let something truer rearrange the room. Back at the house, the string quartet tests acoustics by playing a slow jig. It makes the staircase sound like a heartbeat. The caterer's tasting tray is set on the kitchen island, salted tartlets that dissolve on the tongue, glassy spoonfuls of citrus granita, slivers of perfect beef. I taste a bit of everything and keep the ones that surprise me twice. The lighting designer dims and lifts and dims again until the walls glow without announcing the trick. The guest list grows. The anonymous card has done its work. RSVPs from venture partners and gallery owners, a few magazine editors, an architect who will later pretend he knew me before he did. Rhys adds a column with quiet notes. Who talks too much? Who drinks too early? Who owes us a favor? At the bottom, 3 entries sit like a stone. Arthur Walker, Eleanor Walker, Preston Walker. Attending. On the 3rd evening, after the staff leaves, I walk through alone. The house holds my footsteps without echoing them back, as if it understands the privacy of this rehearsal. In the living room, I stop in front of the console where the Thunderhead vase stands guard, and imagine Eleanor bending to inspect the glaze, Preston dismissing it as a knockoff. I imagine the moment light tilts, the way faces look up in unison when a spoon taps a crystal rim. I picture the staircase as a stage and feel my pulse slow instead of race. I press my palm to the cool glass of the window and watch the city warm itself with lights. Behind me, my phone trembles on the island. 3 messages from numbers that speak in headlines. One from my mother. Don't be late Sunday. Lemon bars. I smile because the sentence is almost tender, then place the phone face down. Tomorrow, Rhys says from the doorway, jacket over one shoulder, voice low to match the room. Invitations close at noon. We're at capacity. Security's briefed. Good. I pick up a candle, smell cedar and tea, and a small, smoky note that always reminds me of the winter I thought I'd lost everything. I want them to feel at home before they realize they're guests. Any second thoughts? He asks. Only about the menu, I say, and then, after a beat, no. He studies me, then nods once, the way he does when a calculation resolves. Get some sleep, Seraphine. After he leaves, I turn the house lights low and sit on the bottom stair, hands folded loosely in my lap. The marble is cool against my calves. I think of the bridge financing Arthur murmured about, the bank envelope Eleanor hid, the way Preston's voice always grows 5 sizes when he's selling a story to himself. I think of a rope made of sugar and how it looks exactly like a rope until it rains. I don't need a storm to make my case. I only need a room with witnesses and one true sentence. When I rise, I look up the steps, each one a slice of light, and understand, to my surprise, that I am not climbing anything. I am already where I meant to be. The night of the party arrives with air so still it feels staged. From the street, the house gleams like a secret waiting to be told. The glass facade glows in alternating layers of gold and silver, the kind of architectural quiet that makes people whisper when they enter. Inside, everything hums in perfect readiness, the quartet tuning softly in the corner, caterers in motion, candles releasing slow threads of cedar and smoke. I stand at the base of the floating staircase, one hand grazing the rail. My reflection wavers in the glass. Hair smooth, black silk dress falling like night around me. The calm of someone who has memorized every beat of her own unveiling. Rhys joins me, tucks unbuttoned, the faintest grin. Everything's set. Valet's backed up to the end of the street. They think Elon Musk's here. Let them, I murmur. Mystery sells better than money. The doorbell chimes once, clear and deliberate, then again. The first guests arrive. Venture capitalists, architects, editors. Their voices fill the space with polite astonishment. Who owns this place? It's stunning. So discreet. The question moves through the crowd like electricity without finding a socket. I drift among them, unseen as the host. That's the rule tonight. I am the ghost in my own success story. My company's designs anchor the rooms. Each candle, each vase, each woven throw, and people touch them without realizing they're touching my work. The quartet begins Bach's Cello Suite No. 1. The music climbs the staircase like light. Across the room, Rhys moves easily, fielding compliments, keeping the machinery invisible. He catches my eye, nods once, our signal that the family has arrived. I turn toward the entrance. Arthur walks in first, his shoulders drawn tighter than I remember, Eleanor close behind, her face polished into social brightness. Preston follows, voice already pitching for dominance. Well, someone in Atlanta still knows how to throw money at an architect, he says, glancing around. Eleanor's eyes widen. Arthur, look at those windows. This must be tech money or old Atlanta wealth. You can always tell by the lighting. Price tag's gotta be $5 million minimum, Preston mutters, already assessing square footage like it's an IQ test. They move further inside, greeted by servers offering champagne flutes. Eleanor smiles at everyone. Arthur does his performative nod. Preston lingers near the living room console, running a fingertip along the thunderhead vase. This looks like one of those things from Seraphine's shop, Eleanor says, squinting. Probably a knockoff, Preston replies without looking. You don't find real design in hobby stores. Rhys appears beside me. Shall we? Almost. I wait until they've stepped fully into the room, surrounded by Atlanta's elite. Then I take the stairs slowly, the hem of my dress whispering against glass. Halfway up, I pause, and Rhys clinks his spoon against a crystal flute. The sound slices the conversation clean. Ladies and gentlemen, Rhys says, voice carrying smooth authority. Our host has a few words. All heads turn upward. I step onto the landing where light wraps around me, a soft stage built by design and intention. Good evening, I begin, voice steady. Thank you for coming. This house means a great deal to me, not because of what it cost, but because of what it represents. I let my eyes find them. Arthur frozen, Eleanor blinking, Preston frowning in confusion. My family worried for years that my business wouldn't pay the bills. They called it a hobby. Tonight, I'm glad they're here to see what that hobby bought. For a breath, silence. Then the sound of a glass slipping from someone's fingers, shattering softly on marble. Preston's phone clatters next. Eleanor's face drains color, then flushes pink again. Seraphine, stop joking. Her laugh is too bright, too thin. Whose house is this really? Mine, I say, every square inch. Arthur shoulders through the crowd, keeping his smile glued for appearances. What the hell are you doing? He hisses. Is this some kind of game? No game, I answer. Just fact. The murmurs start around us. Recognition traveling faster than disbelief. Someone near the bar whispers, "Isn't she the founder of the Perennial House?" Another voice. "Featured in Design Guild, right?" Eleanor sways slightly, champagne glass trembling. You run that? I tilt my head. Have for 8 years. Arthur's smile curdles. Congratulations, sweetheart. Quite the surprise. Surprising, I echo. Yes. Rhys joins me with effortless timing, handing me a fresh glass of champagne. To the host, he says loudly, and to building something worth revealing. Applause ripples uncertainly through the room. Some guests cheer, others simply stare, doing the math. Eleanor forces another brittle smile. We always knew she was brilliant, she tells a passing couple, her tone sliding between pride and panic. Preston, meanwhile, stalks toward the bar. I follow at a measured pace, stopping just as he turns. His grin is sharp, not kind. What game are you playing, Sarah? You couldn't afford this place. The Perennial House cleared $35 million last year, I say evenly. I paid cash. He blinks, jaw tightening. You should have come to me for investment advice. I could have helped you scale properly. Offshore accounts, tax shelters. You never asked about my business, I cut in. Not once. For a moment, I see it. The flicker of realization that this time there's no table for him to sit at, no seat left to claim. He turns away, muttering something about calling his banker. Arthur and Eleanor hover nearby, fielding polite congratulations from guests, while their eyes dart like trapped birds. Eleanor's smile stays fixed. Arthur's hands tremble each time someone shakes them. Later, as the party dissolves into comfortable chatter again, I stand by the window with Rhys. It worked, he says softly. It did, I admit, watching Preston corner a venture capitalist with manic charm. You're not enjoying this as much as you thought you would. I am, I say, then correct myself. Just not the way I expected. Because underneath the satisfaction, there's something else. An ache that sounds like a question I'll never ask them. Why did you need me to be small? The quartet shifts into a slower piece. Candlelight slides across the marble. Guests murmur in low, admiring tones. Somewhere behind me, Eleanor's laughter falters again, replaced by the whisper of my name, said like a confession. Near the bar, two investors discuss numbers, not realizing how clearly their voices carry. Preston's firm has been missing targets. Something's off. Rhys catches the fragment too. His glance meets mine. Interesting, he murmurs. Very, I say. He moves to intercept a journalist, giving me space to breathe. I wander the perimeter of my own house, each object glowing in soft witness. For years I worked in borrowed rooms and ate beside people who mistook my patience for weakness. Tonight they stand surrounded by the proof that I never needed their permission. As the last guests leave, I linger by the staircase. Arthur approaches, slower now, Eleanor trailing behind him. Seraphine, he says, voice sanded down to civility. This is impressive, truly. Thank you. Eleanor touches my arm, the contact hesitant. We should have dinner soon, darling, to talk about opportunities. Your father knows people who'd love to invest. I'm sure they would, I say, smiling without warmth. They retreat toward the door, pulling on their coats. Preston waits outside on the steps, face half in shadow, phone pressed to his ear. His expression is the same one he wore at every family dinner when the bill came, control disguised as ease. Rhys returns to my side. They're leaving. I know. Do you feel free? Almost. The front door closes behind the walkers and silence rolls in like a tide. For the first time, I stand at the top of the staircase, looking down at the space that witnessed everything. The air smells of cedar and champagne. The city beyond the glass hums with distant lights. I whisper it to no one. Let them see me. Then I turn away, barefoot now, leaving the marble cool beneath my feet, the party fading behind me like a season I've finally outgrown. 3 months later, the city feels smaller. Or maybe I've grown. The headlines do most of the work for me. Modern Hearth Files, Chapter 11. Investment firm backed by Preston Walker under fire. Perennial House quietly expands market share in record quarter. I don't chase the press. I don't need to. The work speaks, and the silence afterward says more. From my office, the skyline gleams through the glass, a reflection of the choices that built it. Rhys stands beside me, sleeves rolled, his energy as steady as always. Warehouse acquisitions finalized, he says. That's the last of Modern Hearth's supply chain under our umbrella. We own every route they depended on. I sign the final document without ceremony. Make sure we retain their best staff. No one deserves to be collateral damage. He nods. You've thought of everything. Not everything, I admit, glancing toward my muted phone on the desk. Just the parts that needed to end. Because in the background of success, my family has been calling. Texts, voicemails, all unanswered. The same 3 names lighting my screen until I learned to ignore the glow. I told myself I'd respond when the story changed. It hasn't. Rhys sets a folder in front of me. Here's the bankruptcy purchase agreement. Once you sign, you officially own Modern Hearth's assets at 12 cents on the dollar. I pick up the pen. Funny, I say quietly. Preston called them the future. Ink meets paper, a line drawn between then and now. Congratulations, Rhys says softly. You've just bought your brother's future. I look up, expression unreadable. No, I correct him. I just stopped letting them define mine. He studies me for a moment. Do you want me to handle media inquiries? No press, no statements. This isn't revenge. I exhale slowly. It's closure. The rest of the day moves like clockwork. Signatures, calls, strategy reviews. At sunset, the office empties, leaving only the hum of the building and the soft click of Rhys packing his briefcase. You should go home, he says gently. Home, I echo. That still feels like a question. He smiles, then answer it on your terms. When he leaves, I stand by the window, watching the city turn gold, then blue, then dark. The phone vibrates again. Eleanor's name, followed by a new message. Please, we need to talk. I let it ring out, the sound faint against the glass. I already know what they'll say. By the next morning, the business pages have done their autopsy. Catastrophic mismanagement. Investors blindsided. Walker Capital's reputation in freefall. Preston's name repeats across every article, each line more brutal than the last. Rhys slides one across my desk. You should see this. I skim, then close it. He bet against me with our parents' money. He lost. You think they know yet? Oh, they know, I say. They just don't know how much. 2 days later, the inevitable happens. A voicemail from Eleanor, cracked with tears. Another from Arthur, his voice quieter than I've ever heard it. We need your help. I wait a day before replying. Not to punish, just to make sure I can hear my own thoughts first. When I finally answer, my tone is neutral. Come to the house. Sunday, 5 p.m. Rhys glances up when I hang up. Sunday dinner hour? Exactly, I say. Old habits die with context. The day arrives warm and sharp with sunlight. The house on West Paces smells faintly of fresh lilies and lemon oil. I wear a simple charcoal blouse, hair pulled back, no armor needed. The security system chimes once. Visitors approaching driveway. Through the window, I watch them emerge. Arthur slower than I remember, Eleanor's hands gripping her purse, Preston trailing behind like an apology, wearing human skin. I stay where I am at the top of the staircase. When the door opens, they step into the foyer as if crossing a border. Come in, I say. My voice carries, smooth but cold. Living room. They obey without hesitation. It's disorienting, seeing them in this space. Once an arena for their judgment, now a room built entirely on mine. Arthur sits forward, hands clasped tight. Seraphine, we're in trouble. I say nothing. Eleanor takes over, voice trembling. Preston's lost everything. His firm collapsed after the Modern Hearth deal. We co-signed for the investment. Our savings are gone. Our home. She breaks. Arthur clears his throat. We just need a loan, a short-term one, until we get back on our feet. I look at Preston. He can't meet my eyes. What did you invest in exactly? He mutters, a startup, e-commerce, you wouldn't understand. Modern Hearth, I ask. His head snaps up, shocked. How do you... I own it now, I say quietly, or what's left of it. You didn't lose your money to a stranger, Preston. You lost it to me. The silence is absolute. Eleanor stares, lips parting in disbelief. You can't mean... I can, I say, and I do. You bet against me without ever knowing it. Arthur leans forward, voice desperate. You can't do this to your own family. I stand, calm and deliberate. You did it first. Every time you laughed. Every time you told me I wasn't serious. Every time you decided who I was allowed to be. Eleanor begins to cry. We're family, she whispers. That has to mean something. It does, I say. It means I'll remember what not to repeat. I walk to the front door and pull it open. The late afternoon sun pours in, slicing the marble in two. Get off my property. Arthur's mouth opens, but no words come. Preston looks up at me for the first time, anger and shame fighting behind his eyes, but says nothing. They leave slowly, the sound of their footsteps fading down the steps. When the door closes, the house exhales. I stand there for a long moment, hand on the cool brass handle, heartbeat steady. For years, I had imagined this confrontation ending in triumph, but it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like truth, simple, clean, and heavy. When I finally turn away, the quiet isn't loneliness, it's space. In the reflection of the glass, I see a woman who no longer waits for anyone's permission to exist. And for the first time, I believe her. Morning sunlight stretches through the glass walls, soft and golden, settling over everything I've built. 3 months have passed since the door closed on my family's last plea. The lilies are gone, replaced by a quiet peace that no longer feels like armor. The house breathes differently now. No longer a statement, just a home. Rhys sits across from me at the living room table, tablet in hand, the faint sound of construction from the street outside. Third quarter numbers exceeded projections by 17%, he says, eyes still scanning the data. The sustainable line is outselling everything else 2-1. The press can't stop calling you the disruptor of home design. I smile, small and real. People respond to honesty. They can tell when something's been made by human hands. He glances up, and when it's led by someone who knows who she is. I ignore the compliment, reaching for a stack of fabric swatches. Cream linen, deep charcoal, warm clay. Let's use the better fabric for this one, I say. It's softer, truer. He nods. North Carolina manufacturers ready to start production next week. Family-owned, local materials, impeccable labor practices. Higher costs, I note. Lower carbon footprint. And American-made means something to our buyers. Then it's worth it, I say, smoothing the swatch flat against the table. We don't build empires, we build legacies. The phone vibrates against the marble beside me. Eleanor Walker. Again. Rhys notices. He doesn't comment. I let it ring until it stops. Then silence fills the room, the kind that hums with understanding. They're still calling, he says finally. They will, I reply. Guilt doesn't die as fast as ego. He studies me. You ever think about answering? I used to, I admit. Now I think about listening instead, to what peace sounds like when no one's explaining it away. We move through the rest of the agenda easily. Distribution timelines, expansion strategies, the upcoming design awards. The rhythm is clean, precise, earned. When he mentions that Design Guild has nominated the Perennial House for Visionary Brand of the Year, I don't flinch. Once, that kind of recognition would have felt like validation. Now, it just feels like gravity. About time, I say. Rhys laughs. That's the understatement of the year. A knock sounds at the door. Our senior designer pokes her head in, carrying sketches for the spring collection. We'll need your input on color palette and lighting by next week. Schedule a meeting tomorrow morning, I say, and tell Marcus we're keeping the warm neutrals. She smiles, then hesitates. You know, the industry's buzzing about your story, how you stayed quiet until everyone had already underestimated you. It's inspiring. When she leaves, Rhys grins. You're a legend now. Legends are just people whose mistakes were worth it, I say. We both laugh. Later, when the office empties, I sit alone in the quiet. The phone lights up again. 3 missed calls. 1 voicemail. I press play just to hear her voice. Seraphine, please, it's not about money anymore. We just want to see you. We made mistakes. We know that. Please call us. The message ends with a soft exhale, a sound like surrender. I turn the phone face down. It takes me a long time to move, to remember I have a life waiting in the other room. The sunset pours through the windows, spilling over the gray rug, the marble floor, the low white sofa where I've spent countless nights planning and dreaming. I stand and walk toward the glass, watching the city below blur into evening lights. In the reflection, I see her, the woman I became while they weren't watching. Stronger, quieter, sharper. Not made of defiance anymore, but of design. I think about what power is for, not to destroy, but to choose. I could write a check tomorrow that would save their house. I could end their panic, erase the debt, restore the old hierarchy, Arthur at the head, Eleanor at the center, Preston somewhere loud and ungrateful. I could do it all anonymously and never hear their voices again. But that's not power, that's repetition. Real power is the space to decide who you will not become. I pour myself a glass of wine, the deep red glinting like a seal in the lamplight. The air smells faintly of cedar and rain, my own product burning quietly on the shelf. Rhys walks in, jacket slung over his arm. You staying in tonight? Probably, I say. Maybe I'll actually cook. He raises a brow. After all this time, you trust yourself in the kitchen? Maybe that's the point. He chuckles, then nods toward the phone. She'll keep calling. I know. What will you do? I swirl the wine, watching the surface tremble, then still. Maybe one day I'll answer, when it's not about saving anyone. When it's about seeing them? Yes, I say softly. When we can meet without debt between us. He smiles. Until then, you have a life to build. We move to the kitchen, where soft jazz replaces the quiet. He opens a bottle of olive oil. I hand him the pan, and for a moment, the past feels distant, like a story I once read about someone else. Later, after dinner, I walk alone to the window again. The city hums beneath the night. My reflection meets my gaze, steady, unafraid. I whisper it aloud this time. Freedom tastes better than revenge. The house answers with silence, warm, alive, whole. And for the first time, I don't feel like the girl who had to prove she belonged. I feel like the woman who built a world where she already does.